Hey, welcome, and thank you all so much for coming. It's great that you're all here. This show is called The God I Ought to Be, and we conceived of it over the past month or so, mostly while we were about 3,000 miles apart. And it seeks to explore the question, who is the God I ought to be? Loosely. Yes.
Just a couple things before we get started. First thing, following the show, we're going to have a nice little refreshment party with those refreshments over there that are going to be on that table. So feel free to stay, mingle, and all that. We would ask you to refrain from your uproarious clapping throughout, but snaps are more than welcome and very much enjoyed for the performers. So if you feel like you want to snap, please do. Check your cell phones. Cell phones always an important thing. Make sure those are all off or in the silent or airplane mode position.
Kate is still out there, so she knows.
Oh, she is?
Okay.
Okay. Should we get started first?
Well, I don't know. Okay.
Is she outside?
Okay.
Anyone have any jokes? I always like it when people sitting on stage ask for jokes.
Any jokes?
What's the age limit?
No, she get lost. We can just wait backstage.
Let's snap when she comes in.
What else? This is a great space, so feel free to look at the art, hang out. Jennifer, do you have a joke?
Are you okay with the photography, or do you feel
Oh.
uncomfortable?
That's a good point, Jennifer. Thank you for bringing that up. Photography, excellent. Everyone, photograph stuff. That's
Just
great.
not flash.
Try not to flash, but if flash is necessary, go for it.
I don't know if
your
flashes.
your responses, not visibly but audibly, if everyone's okay with this, are going to be recorded by that computer there. If that's okay with everyone. So not your faces. Your faces are not going to be on CNN or anything. But is that okay with everyone?
Yes.
That we're recording the show. Okay. Great. And here we have
And one last thing is that over there on that table that you came in next to, if you are interested in Lia and I's poetry or other performance, we do have a mailing list thing where if you want future updates, it's over there. So, just so you know. And without further ado, Lia and I present to you
The God I Ought to Be. Thank you so much.
Can you feel the sun tonight? But Dylan, you say, that's a moon. And it's not just a moon, that's a moon covered in clouds. To which I say to you, shut up. I know what a moon is. Does it look like I don't know what a moon is? I know what a moon looks like, but I know what a sun feels like. And that eternal mystery pouring through the waters of this cathedral like the portholes of a sinking ship, that, my friends, is a sun. And it is warm and it is bright. So feel the sun with me tonight and wiggle your fingers. This is not rhetorical. Put your hands above your head. I mean it. I can wait all night. Wiggle your fingers. Wiggle your fingers like sunflower petals. Wiggle your fingers like fat sunbathing cats. Wiggle your fingers like solar receptors on an ecologically friendly building and feel the sun. And inhale deeply like, and exhale deeply like, get all of that darkness out one more time. Inhale deeply like, and exhale deeply like, that sounded good. One more time. Inhale. Exhale. And suddenly there's a flower girl dancing on your feet at a wedding. And suddenly there's a monarch butterfly tickling your nose in the spring. And suddenly there's a skippet revolving around your ankle in the summer. And suddenly there's an orgasm rising deep within your stomach. And suddenly there's a sun. And you still have the audacity to say to me, hey Dylan, that up there, that's a moon. And not just a moon, that is a moon covered in clouds. To which I say to you, you're thinking too hard about this whole day-night thing. That, my friends, that's a sun.
All the cards I gave them were shipped back in Christmas tins and manila envelopes. Now the refrigerator has cleared, the moon a sliver of shell again. How strange we can reset ourselves day after day. In the innocence of morning, I wash my hands and fold the towels. There once was a moment, even if only a blink, when there were no mistakes yet. The world blue, green, and brown. I will speak of myself later, when I've grown up completely, when the table has set itself and I've finished my automatic meal, when there is no loss to hide and my discoveries settle like clouds over the lake. I'll say that the dim advice from my mother has grown into a sure species. I'll say that you have all taught me well, all of you, and I have nothing more to ask for, and I will never ask again.
So, let me take you back to the garden, where we were naked romping, and God was up there stomping. But he wasn't God yet. No, just a matter of fact, like love or death or a slap to your bones. No, we weren't ever alone. Oh, we were angels without that embodied antithesis. Not living for the afterlife, we were living for synthesis. We spent each day doing field work, but we had no research notebook. We slept standing up. Felt every drop of rain. When it fell in whips, it left welts, and we yelped for joy, crying, pain is pain. Is pain is life. His knives pointed towards the soil and not our wives. And let me take you back to the garden, where there was no stomach suction, no C-section, no lethal injection, where we laid the sick to rest, and they either left or they got better. Never any lasting scars to sever. The sun as our prophet. We dug trenches not for bodies, but to hide our roots. Currency for sweet souls to buy sweeter fruits. Time not on a watch. Deer heads not on a wall. Nothing was pinned on the inanimate, and we never called on the ambiguous for guidance. Logic was what we felt, and what we felt was silence. And something beautiful that was right before our eyes. Oh, we were wise just because we were wise. Our five senses were enough to feel good, and our two arms, they were strong enough to chop wood, and that wood was good enough to stay warm. And let me take you back to the garden, where there was no difference in between men and women, because there was never anything to judge in skin. She can give birth. So what? Why should I feel guilt about my girth, or what I wear, or who I swear to? And now, let me bring y'all here. Talk to me. I'll talk back. And I'll lecture you on change until I finish this bottomless beer in my throat. And the barkeep upstairs, he hands me my heaviest coat and points to the door and says, go forth and conquer. No, wait, hold up, rewind. Go forth and prosper.
That was the spring I awoke dirty, lay in the grass and squinted at the flames of my desire, as a cat crunches its spine beneath fireworks and doesn't get burned, to its relief and disappointment, that it stands once more on the edge of enlightenment and purrs at nothing. That was the spring the Willamette River flooded in, to downtown Portland. And Mom told me people drove up to the line where the land fought for itself, and the water laughed at its pathetic rigidity that will get it nowhere, except a little more bitter than it was before. And that's no better, she says, adding to the equation of who wins and who loses in the silly game of trying and failing. Some animals knocked dead by that hazardous stone that could be love and could be death. Whichever one, that was the spring. My mother taught well. There's nothing more to learn. Now I can't remember what she told me. She told me nothing, just pointed to the sky. She told me too much, all words sound the same. I want nature to morph without description. Let petals fall without holding, so I get home like she told me.
It's been 6 years since nonprofits dropped hope. It's been 200 since Joseph Smith typed up his scriptures. It's been less than 365 days since I ripped off that Power Rangers bandage. I rubbed salt in the wounds each morning before every blisters. This is a reflection bound to heart kissers, those well-wishers with significant others who just can't seem to ever wish hard enough. And so he slapped her. A little rougher than a puppy bite, that haphazard fury of a fire dancer cutting wrists out in suburbia, screaming danger, damage. White boy staring at a white boy asking how to reconcile privilege. And the stomach acid of a dragon where he's told he's the 1%, while the other 99, they're his inner city neighbors, his humankind companions, his parents, they never let him play with because they were too dangerous. Just child molesters and Negro killers entrenched with Sambo and Nat Turner screaming, burn her. Please, son, just burn her and never date her. For the love of God, just don't date her. He taped it to his heart flap. While he's dealing gateway pills on the corner, he slipped out through the back door of the prison serving just 1 week of parole. Oh, sir, it's because your white skin color there's no toll. Save the brunt of your actions for the spread eagle limbs of a lesser race. Case of inequality and retrospective justification. In a Protestant nation where we've thrown off the blanket of God and his vocabulary, but have kept that latent dichotomy. Without the comforting image of Mother Mary, there's danger, damage, danger, damage. It has been 228 days, at this point probably closer to 928 days since I carried a dead woman from the deli roadside. Her limp body was too damn heavy. 2 of us grabbed her legs, but her open eyes, they grabbed our sanity. So I come back stateside with her soul, bubbling up inside of me, saying danger, damage. The only dead culture is the one that keeps its citizens in solitary confinement. We got a refinement regiment, best measure of contemporary progress, deep within concrete, away from spectacality, that muscle twinge to press that plunger dutifully, 2 chemicals to murder, and the 3rd to halt his feeling capacity. Until that white privileged boy was left standing in his dimly lit liberal arts college bathroom mirror, and he's patting his chest delicately, asking, sincerely, is this a cell? Is this a human body? We all cells here. Are we one human body?
He disappears, like hickory into the hardwood floor of a new establishment, like the floor into the ceiling of the apartment below, and like the ceiling into light fixture glass, like trees through a car window, dots on stilts that charge in the opposite direction, like the somberness of the car window into the mania of curbside grass, like ashen men into their wives wait to pick them up from the porch, like rest stops into locations, like locations into homes, like achievement into achievement, like hills into flatlands and water into the sky. Piles of men through the doorway, limbs cut off by the frame, yell for me to come out. Wet sand from old shoes tracks across the kitchen floor. I'm only trying to keep a clean house. I wish I were in school, reading off multiplication tables. No, I wish I were walking home with my leftover lunch. I ate cranberries from the dirt once. I'm hungry.
That inward movement of heat, when your finger met the sunset, when you pointed out a lazy seagull, dipping with the grace of a drunken sailor fighting the winds, when you scratched at that speck of sky like a lotto card until you revealed stars, and you inhaled deeply, in your body. It blew up like a buoy and you floated. I always loved that you were weightless. You just cut through waves like helium. Your lungs always expanding with the peace of a sleeping dove. And you, that night, just lay there crying when my mustache brushed your neck. You were wearing a seashell necklace, so your neck, it was far from naked, but rather surrounded with string and a crustacean's old home and a whisper, rising out of the moment like a happy ghost. And it was the first time I had ever felt lipstick on my chest, and the first time you had ever felt Burt's Bees on your left breast, and when the wind blew through that window, we shivered harder than we ever thought was possible. I was up early in the morning in the kitchen, reading a book by Charles Fernahue entitled Pieces of Light. It set out to prove that memory is recreated each new time it comes to mind. That every moment is a projection of the infinite waves of light, crackling through the infinite waves of shadow to create infinite waves of static we coalesce into illumination. Charles said that we are all pieces of light, made up of pieces of light, calling those pieces of light that resonate imagery, memory, and calling those pieces of light that cannot be named God. I confess, I cannot remember what your face looked like when you stumbled down the stairs with my tattered Simpsons boxers hanging off of your hips. With a tank top loose around your shoulders, I could see the tattoo of a warbler like a constellation stretched across your back, and it was calling to me hell. Humans don't even have access to enough language for me to properly describe to you the feeling in my stomach. It was the moment I realized why Webster's dictionary is always open to revision and additions. I confess, I cannot remember what you said or how you said it. I think you mentioned pancakes, but you may have mentioned Jesus, and you were sitting in my lap, and suddenly you were standing, and you were dressed in the sheer white curtains, and your laugh, it carried down my throat like war rum, and my laugh came out crisp, like autumn. It was a big house, and your existence echoed like a candle in a cave. But the dark figures our bodies projected on the walls were more like angels than hieroglyphics. And that kairos in the wind, it drew us to the screen door, and we stood out on the porch. When the night was coming down, and the day was going up, and the air pressure was a perfect equilibrium, and the energy of the universe was in all places equally simultaneously, and the dust, it swirled around us like a spotlight, and it was weightless, just like you. The ocean was in the background, keeping rhythm for it all, as you pointed out another lazy seal, dipping with the grace of a drunken sailor. And that was the first time that I ever said I loved you.
I keep far more than I remember I have. Pencils, some flower beds, in the backyard, the sound I hold before I speak. In school, I stayed plated to a chair and held a crayon and lollipop attached to their own chains. And when I closed a book, I always kept the page. I did not learn to type or read before I learned to keep. My parents, I kept them home until they could not stay. The flowers, they did not bloom, but I kept the stale seeds. I've kept you for winters, springs, summers. Last autumn we skipped, but I'll keep you this October anyway, unlike anything I've kept before, though it carries the same name. Amelia Earhart speaks to the searchers. You cannot accept death. The last chirp, and then the siren. I assure you, there was no alarm. You never saw me when you thought you did. Mine is a story you would tell if you boarded that plane. I fell into my route. You search for me and can't find your own flight.
Out of the frailty of the human voice, stars crashing down. Out of the choice to stay hidden inside the temple under siege, stars crashing down. Out of the wake for the tremble of the boulder, from the mouth of the cave in the sky, stars crashing down. Out of the burning flesh of the monk stripped naked in the streets of Tibet, stars crashing down. Out of the sound of the woman in labor strapped to the backroom stretcher at Bedford Hills Prison, stars crashing down. Out of the silence and out of the stillness and out of the barren and out of the dead, stars came crashing down, and then there was absolutely nothing. Then there was this sapling. And then there was this hope. And then there was this promise. And then there was this prayer. And then there was this ghost, holy and peaceful, healing and filling those pores that surged forth, desperate and bloody. And then there was this God, overwhelming and steady, against the horizon suddenly bursting again with new stars. Out of the frailty of the human voice, forever and always, resurrection, transformation, and a radical, unquenchable love.
All my life I thought I was good. The ceiling went too high. The ceiling in my house, I could not reach it. The light had nothing to say but to turn on. I was good because the ceiling did not fall. All my life I was told, you are good. My stream had nowhere new to go. I never knew I'd be alone finally. So finally I'd be alone. So finally I'd shake the water off the flower's stems. I'd see a thief and not report him. So finally I did not know this thief or if he were me. I wish I were in the house where I was good. My mother could serve me good milk, good enough. I wish I were in the house where I was good, good enough for me. This autumn, I don't know how to talk to you. Cotton swirls across the grass, miniature dogs await the descent of their paws into ice-pressed snow. In mornings, I hear church bells ring and see your torso twist in my periphery like a deep root surfacing. Trees blot out the city's definition. Jazz unravels through the radio. Armstrong's voice cracks into rubble. Dust coats our windows. I bang my fist against the pillow. I cannot see the scents in front of me. Rainbow kites get caught in trees. Park rangers take them down. Winter will come soon, and I hope I can make it home for Christmas. I gulped in so much this autumn that I swallowed my voice. I touch your veins and feel the stop and go of your blood.
The following is a political poem. I was caught in conversation with an eternal question. Oh Lord, what should I do with these convulsions? From these stories I collect inside this nation, featuring men serve in isolation. Oh, for what it's worth, this world, it's a terrifying prison. It filters unjust light through schisms in your brainstem. You're catching single-second glimpses, Christ shining through the steeples, but most of the time it's dark enough to go to war. Heart. Angels ain't stupid enough to come through here no more. And I am the call for a heaven on earth. If angels won't intervene, we must prove our worth as beings made in God's image, with the power to change, a change into power, a blood into water, beings made in God's image with the power to change. A skepticism eating our souls from inside out, unholy pressure, preacher in the pews saying it's a sin to shout. We believe them. Because those binary divides, they hold up in institutions we took our first breath in. It's high time we take our first breath out since the Enlightenment. I've got some black, brown, white-colored skin rising up for a new sacrament because we're sick of using underclass blood for communion. in order to replace our 1% and our salvation. We're sick. And I've heard the cliche rhyme since my inception. Rake by rake, hoe by hoe, we're gonna make that garden grow, but where has that top gotten us? I've got some lives on a conveyor belt, some welts hidden with makeup, bodies used up when we're 30, because society stuck us with the backbreaking labor of piecing together an unsung history. We're unsure of our sanity and the distinction between your reality and our ancestors under slavery. And I am the call. I am the small print written in the revolutionary heart of the child arrested for producing public art, mural, start, stop, spray paint, dangled out of context. And the plaintiffs focus on the trespass and not why the government could not afford the schoolboy a proper campus. We're pumping taxes in the prosecution, assuring invisible populations they are the least of God's children, anything to avoid the reparations or the retribution of the meek. Strikebreakers point into an invisible hand holding sexually marginalized lungs under the creek. I'm telling you, angels, they ain't stupid enough to come through here no more. So I am the call, rake by rake, hoe by hoe. We're gonna make that garden grow. But not in hiding like we're doing now, like I've been told to read that Bible. Brush up on my scriptures. By the time I'll be wise enough, I'll be too damn old to make a movement. So we must take the streets with a radical love. Our gloves off. Gripping our enemy who grips us with deceit, we must not retreat, we must trust in the heart pulsing the floorboards under our feet. Moving us forward in the only way we've ever known, brick by brick, stone by stone. We're not alone. I'm telling you, you're not alone. I am the call. This is the call.
Amy told me there's a lot to be said for doing nothing. When I told her I wasn't doing anything, but pacing in the summer-lit kitchen, dimming to fall. And when I awake to spring, like a fleet of ships pulling into shore, there'll be nothing left of the nothing here. And I guess there's a lot to be said for that, and I'll say nothing more. We watched your sister kiss her boyfriend in the kitchen, the morning after they emerged from your basement like two pale strawberries. Her needle body poked through his plaid-covered arms, wrapped around her like a bandage. She had to stand on her toes to reach his mouth, his lips puckered, inflamed as he waited for her smoothness to put out that no-clasp dread. In the kitchen, your mother washed collard greens. Your father watched the Trailblazers beat LA. We wanted to look up from our pancakes so that we could see the illicitness. When were they going to stop? How do they stop doing this? Why did they start?
I think I miss talking to you most when I read about Islam. Because in the surahs of Medina, your voice is a dream catcher wet with smoke and mist. And absolute surrender is us two kissing first inside your love seat and then around your stomach. My knees coated with the dust of your rug, and I was crying, and I was looking up at you, as simply as the mosque towers strong and still against the New York City skyline. That old corkboard in your room, where you used to post up old letters from your brother, and reminders that underneath death there is a fundamental promise that life is good and crisp and pure. And you were looking down at me and you were crying, with that special silence that haunts me deep tonight, with these lights low, and the shadows accumulating outside those quaking windows. And the world is dark, and the winds are fast and cold. And I want nothing more than to pour my whole self into your wide and open vessel and leave nothing in my way. In the surahs of Medina, your voice is old and sand buffeted and weathered, but as unwavering and strong. Like a mother naming her new child, alone in the hospital room with that small God she has just called forth from her womb, and she is just listening to the whispers and invisible wires that are only audible and visible in moments of ultimate grace. An absolute surrender is you digging through that high school lunchroom trash to reclaim a ring that I had given you, and us two naked in the girls' locker room, on a day where the halls were empty, but reverberated with a sound we could have sworn originated from somewhere deep within the sky. That stone tower that we hiked to on Mount Batty, where I first understood what marriage meant. And later in the night, I sunk into your hair, in the attic of an old house, and we just clung to one another with the isolation and desperation of a young love, and christened a small Pendleton blanket in the name of an infinity that haunts me deep tonight. With these lights low, and the snow accumulating outside these quaking windows. And I know you don't request it, but I think I need you to know. Hey, you. You are the only key to God that this boy has ever known. I think I miss talking to you most when I read about this song.
The body is a town hidden in clouds. I can see the trim of a house, your right arm. This is your body now. Birds circle to the ground and feast on the lawns, impeccably mown. Your body is a town. You must have felt when each light flickered off, house by house, and the sky wrapped around you like a gown, and the moon reset itself like a queen, rising from her throne. You must have never made it home. How could you have known which house to choose from? The phone screamed until the lights turned on in each lone room, and then everyone began to answer you. You must be yourself. Stop your eyes from wandering. Go home. You are pride, stiff as metal. Settle into life, like trees into air. Leave without snapping. Faith kept you winding through that road you never found. Past the houses with doors you never saw, there were entries everywhere. Then everything began to blast through the rock. Faith kept you foolish like a dog. Wasn't it exciting?
I crawled out of the conch shell, through which love reverberates, and my ears, bleeding, heard with the clarity of a crucifixion. I struggled through the birth canal with the hope of new creation. My focus was a gate, split by the ache inside my temples. And there were children, praying some light-hearted melody that they had learned by heart before they ever knew salvation. I was following God like an astronaut, looking down at the cat's eye marble, falling through the eye of the needle, until the point at which all things meet was sewn together with the point at which all things diverge, and I was standing at the crux of reconciliation, a diversity in ultimate unity. And the beauty of the mystery consumed me, like an oak tree replacing my bones. And I bled twilight, and I spat stones, and I crawled back into the conch shell through which love reverberates. And I was home. I was home.
I'm the God I ought to be. Wearing too many clothes in spring, wobbling through intersections, picking up tar on my feet. I never got invited to parties. The same song keeps playing. I want to play in peace. I'm the God I ought to be. Settling for everything and lifting glasses to myself. If ever there was a message, the recipient was me. Oh, if ever there was a message, the recipient was me. I wanted to specifically thank a few people. My mother for, first of all, designing our flyer and the program, beautiful program art, drawing it, designing it, whatever, did the whole thing. And also for getting all of our refreshments tonight and going out of her way. My father, her name's Sharon Shalem, you all know that. My father, Jeff Burke, for providing us with this space to practice in and to perform in, and it has such great art, and I encourage you to take a look around because it's a great place.
And to come to more events here. It's an amazing space.
Yes.
And it's a real privilege to perform here in front of all of you. So one last shout out to all of you, friends and family, for supporting us in everything that we do, art or otherwise, all the trouble we get into.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much.